I have been using the new 7th generation iPad mini for over 4 months now, and I'm absolutely addicted to this device. It's funny because I remember when I was using the iPad mini 6, I almost thought about returning it because I used my iPhone so much, and I had also gotten the M4 iPad Pro at that time. So I felt like there wasn't really a need for an iPad mini. And obviously when the 7th generation iPad mini came out, I got it to review it for you guys. And after using it daily, I actually fell in love with it. And now that it's been 4 months of me using this device, I'm gonna go over all my thoughts on how it's been like using the new iPad mini 7th generation for the last 4 months. Now, the most important thing about the iPad mini is its form factor. It is really, really portable, and I think that's what makes it stand out amongst all the other iPads out there in the market. You see, my 13-inch iPad Pro is fantastic because I use that as a main computer. And I also have an 11-inch iPad Air, and I like that device as well. But it's not portable enough, right? When I'm traveling, sometimes I just want to lay back and read some books, browse through the internet, go through social media, maybe watch a movie or TV show. And for that, I don't need the largest screen. I want something that's easy to carry and is very portable, especially when I'm traveling. And I like this for that very, very much. Now, usually when I'm going to a coffee shop, not to do work, but just going to a coffee shop just to drink coffee and read a book, I like to carry this iPad mini in this nice little crossbody that I have, right? I keep my charger in there, I keep my iPad mini in there because it nicely fits in. So that's really, really cool. And I also like to travel that way as well. And it's just so nice to have a very powerful computer like this, right? That you can take anywhere with you. And I was someone who's always addicted to my phone, but what I've noticed is when there's a task that I want to do, like just browse through social media, read books, for an example, I don't really go to my iPhone for that anymore. And yes, I would read a lot on my iPhone because I have the 16 Pro Max and it's got that large display. But obviously it's a large display for a phone, but when you want to do some serious reading, nothing beats the 8.9-inch display of the iPad mini. Even when it comes to consuming content, would you rather want to do it on a phone or would you want to do it on this display? It's not the biggest, but it's also not the smallest, and that's what makes it the best. Sure, would I like to have an OLED display on this? Yes, but for such a small device and for what I'm usually using it for, it honestly doesn't make a difference. Now, one thing that I thought would make a big difference, but I actually haven't, faced any hurdles with is the 60 hertz display. And I know it's 2025. We should be seeing a 120 hertz display on this. But if the iPad Air doesn't even have a 120 hertz display, I don't think that the iPad mini would either. But at least the iPad Air and all the iPads, including this, should have a 90 hertz display. But once again, it doesn't impact the way I use this device on a daily basis. And you might be wondering, how do I use the iPad mini on a daily basis? Well, I'm using it a lot for social media, browsing the web, watching some movies and TV shows, reading books, playing some light games, and note-taking. Sometimes I'll be working on my iPad Pro, I'll be on a call or something with the client, and I'll be jotting down notes with my Apple Pencil on this. And I love the fact that I can use the same Apple Pencil Pro on both my M4 iPad Pro and the iPad mini. Now, over the past 4 months, a lot of people have been asking me that everything that I've been mentioning in my videos about the 7th generation iPad mini can also be done on the 6th generation iPad mini. So should you upgrade to a 7th generation iPad mini, or if you already have an iPad mini 6, or if you find a nice deal on the iPad mini 6, should you go for that versus the iPad mini 7? So that's what I want to talk to you about for a second right now. The iPad mini 7 is great. It's got the A17 Pro processor, but to be very honest, for what you're going to be using the iPad mini for, you're not going to really find a difference between the speed and the performance on this iPad mini versus the iPad mini 6. Yes, I found minor differences when I was playing games or doing slight video editing, but once again, if a video renders 2 seconds later than the iPad mini 6, I don't think that's going to make a big difference. And even with gaming, it doesn't make a difference. But where the A17 Pro really shines, and probably the main reason why it even exists in the 7th generation iPad mini, is for Apple Intelligence. Now, I said this in the very beginning, if there's any productivity that I want to do, I'm going to do that on my iPad Pro. I'm not going to do it on the iPad mini. But over the past month or so, that's actually started to change a little bit because of Apple Intelligence. You see, before I got emails or anything, I would like to respond to that on the iPad Pro because I have my Magic Keyboard. I can quickly just type on it and send that email. But with Apple Intelligence, if I receive certain emails and I want to respond right away on the iPad mini, thanks to writing tools, I can actually do that because I can just tell Apple Intelligence, hey, reply to this email and this is what I want to send. And it'll write out the entire email And all I have to do is just go in and just make some minor modifications or adjustments, and it's good to go. So I don't have to fully type everything out on the iPad mini, because with Apple Intelligence, it's kind of being taken care of. Also, I do a lot of design work, and I work with other designers as well. And sometimes I like to just, send rough sketches of what it is that I'm trying to create, right? And what's really cool is the fact that on the Notes app with the Apple Pencil Pro, I can just create some rough sketch, and it'll actually create a more realistic version of what it is that I'm trying to convey. And that is really, really neat. And also when it comes to documents as well, it's really nice to proofread documents and change the tone and adjust things with Apple Intelligence. But now let's go back to the original question. Should you upgrade? Well, if I mentioned all those Apple Intelligence features, and if they sound important to you, and if you feel like that can make a difference on the way you can use this device, then I say go ahead and upgrade to the iPad mini 7. When you are buying the iPad mini 7, you're kind of investing in the world of AI, right? But if that doesn't make a difference to you and you only want a device for content consumption, browsing the web, going through social media, playing some games, then no, you don't need to upgrade to the iPad mini 7. So I use the iPad mini 7, like I said, more than I really thought I would, because once you start using it, you do fall in love with it. It is a beautiful device. In the original review that I did, I talked about how I wish the borders were a little narrower, right? Because it's, we want more of those edge-to-edge displays, but to be honest, it doesn't really make a difference. And I noticed that when I'm reading books, I kind of like the fact that I can rest my thumb on that border, because it's already such a small device that you kind of need a space to hold onto the device without covering the display. The camera, I'm not even going to talk about because I don't take pictures with it, but it is a decent camera. So if you want to take pictures with it, by all means, you absolutely can. But of course, it's not like an iPhone camera, so don't be doing comparisons. Now, the one thing I do wish that the iPad mini had was Face ID. And I know a lot of people are going to be saying, hey, this is one of the entry-level products. If the iPad Air doesn't have it, then how can an iPad mini have it? Well, I want an iPad Air to also have Face ID, and this device isn't cheap. It is $500 at the end of the day, so it's still a premium compact tablet. And the reason why I want Face ID is because I'm so used to using my iPhone, where I just can immediately unlock it with just a swipe. Even with my iPad Pro, I can just swipe it and I'm in, right? And even with my MacBook, which once again doesn't have Face ID, but it has this great feature where if you're wearing an Apple Watch, it detects your Apple Watch and it unlocks it for you. So at least I wish that feature came on this, right? So I can easily just swipe in and I'm in, right? Because sometimes I'm in a hurry and I want to just look something up and I have to like rest my finger up on here and then I can enter, right? First world problems, right? But once again, when you're used to Face ID, it's kind of like going backwards when you have to use a device with Touch ID. Now, also, you might be wondering what case I use. I use this great folio from ESR. I absolutely love it. It does a great job protecting my iPad mini, and it also has this nice little flap that'll cover your Apple Pencil Pro from falling off. So that is really, really cool. And I have a link to it in the description below, and it's only like 30 bucks or less. So way better than the Apple Smart Folio, way more durable as well. And at the end of the day, the iPad mini 7 is great. It's kind of like a virtual assistant. It's a note-taking device. It's my e-reader. It's my, content consumption device. It's everything built into one. I even use it as a teleprompter here and there. And I've done an entire video on 7 great use cases of the iPad mini. So if you're trying to find ways to use this to its maximum potential, you should check that video out on my channel. Of course, stay tuned to more content on the iPad mini and all iPads in productivity in general. So subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and I'll see you next time.